Welcome back to Care Beyond Code, the show from VBA, where we are going into the strategies and decisions that humans are using in this wide world of software to institute care beyond code. Now, in this particular episode, within our broad launch, the code is literal, meaning the software that goes in to getting everyday people the benefits and the healthcare that they need. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes, not only from the legacy systems and ways of yore that existed just 12 months ago to today, where modernization and high tech is happening faster than any of us are even aware of. Certainly me. Luckily, I have two experts join me on the show today to talk about everything in that world of technology and every single acronym in the book, from SSO to EDI to MFA to API, and oh, by the way, to that two-letter acronym that's the flavor of the year, AI. Joining me for that conversation from VBA, the Senior VP of Engineering, Matt Salerno, and from Allegiance, President and CEO, Stephen Tahta. Matt, Stephen, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Adam, thank you. Good to be here, thanks.
Now before we dive into any specific rivet of the tech, and we could do that for hours here, folks, but don't worry, we're only going to be here for about 30, 35 minutes, and we'll give you as broad a look as we can. To do that, we have to set the foundation. And Matt, I'd like to start with you, because the technology is moving so fast, and that's really an awareness that the TPA world has, but not so much that anybody else receiving that care on the back end really understands. They have a one point of view of what the healthcare means to them, and they don't understand any of this going on underneath. Right. As a result, TPAs normally don't get credited with that sort of thing, although maybe they should. So before we get into that fast advancing tech, could you please help us set the stage for what exists today? And then Stephen will go to you to talk about how that is applied in your specific case.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair, Adam. Thanks. And that's a good way to set it up. So I think when people hear about the word like TPA in healthcare, when it's related to that space, I think they think about claims, right, and ID cards and benefits, but they don't really think about, where does that all come from? What's behind the scenes, as you said? What's the technology that's quietly pushing all this data to and from people or making things available to your members? So today's TPAs, they run on a cloud infrastructure, right? They have data pipelines with information coming in, going out, transforming from one format to another format, splitting apart across multiple different systems, keeping in parity, external systems, internal systems. They even have, more advanced ones have AI models inside of it that help these things continually evolve and help your members and your clients get answers faster, right? So Stephen came from a medical background. I come from a military background. We both have different journeys that kind of crossed in this healthcare tech space. And I think from us, we both had different perspectives on what's happening behind the scenes and where it went from 5-10 years ago to kind of where it is today. And I was curious, Stephen, we have at VBA, we have all the things I just mentioned, like we have continuous integration and deployments, we have automation testing, we have scalable infrastructure, but this is all relatively new in our space. So I'm just wondering, like, from your point of view, how does the tech look, your organization look with regard to 5 years ago, to 10 years ago?
Yeah, thanks, Matt, and thanks, Adam, for having us. All I can say, first and foremost, is that our world has gotten infinitely more complicated. The connections that have to be created, even in 5 years, there's been a substantial change. Mm-hmm. A lot of this is table stakes. So, remember that as a TPA, we administer health plans, which means we take care of employer-funded health plans that obviously includes all their members, their employees and their dependents. And there is a big component of taking care of people. So from my clinical background, that obviously is at the forefront. We touch people every day. and we take care of people and our clients, who are the employers, who care deeply about their employees and their employees' dependents. The technology runs in the background, and largely speaking, it's become table stakes. So there's an expectation. Some people talk about processing claims is becoming a commodity. I would disagree with that, based on the complexity, because some do it really well, some don't. But what I will say is that it is table stakes to be able to have this technology. The way I describe TPAs today is that we are like an airport. So an airport has some services internally, but primarily the airport exists for inbound and outbound planes carrying passengers. The inbound and outbound planes are all of the vendors and third parties that we connect. And those passengers on the plane are the actual members or pieces of information that are inbound and outbound. And they're coming in from all over, and they're going out in all different directions. And so we're trying to manage that, and then providing some services internal to the airport, to those members, to that information that's inbound and outbound.
So I think there's like a lot of moving parts, right? And in the old times, a lot of that was going to be like siloed systems, right? And it's going to be a lot of behind the scenes, writing your own code, doing your own software, managing and maintaining your own stuff in order to keep these systems communicating, right? So, and like as you came over to VBA, as you started making that journey from your previous system over to VBA, I'm sure there were like a lot of just unknowns, a lot of moving parts, probably a lot of moving parts you didn't know you had. So how did that look when you decided to go down that modernization effort, right? Like, I'm sure you were built on a system that gave you probably solid foundation, right? Very stable. But a lot of times I find when customers have, an on-prem system, that stability is great for a long time, right? It's old, reliable, but at some point in time, technology is moving on, and you reach a time in which your current system is going to just go as far as it can bring Steven and his TPA. So, what were some of those challenges as you even approached that subject for your, I guess I'll call it like your modernization story for your TPA?
Yeah, I tend to put it in two buckets. I'll talk about two different issues. One is we're a growing TPA, and as a wholly owned subsidiary of Cigna, we're expected to actually grow significantly. And the company wasn't scalable in its current state. Now, that, as you said, that is not to say that the legacy system wasn't very stable. And one of our competitive advantages is the huge amount of flexibility we offer to our employer clients. It's not that we couldn't deliver that on the legacy system. We can. But the legacy system is built on an obsolete code, and we host it on-prem. And that is not a scalable solution for us. So we needed a system that was cloud-based and forward-thinking in order to meet our scalability needs. The second bucket that I always talk about is where the industry is going, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about AI, and it might come into play when we talk about EDI as well, or APIs as well. There are the acronyms, Adam.
Right.
But our old system is not going to be able to allow us to create efficiencies and benefit also in terms of scalability from all of the forthcoming technologies,
right,
particularly around AI and what it can do for process automation.
No, that's a good point. I like those buckets. Those are really good. And I love that airplane analogy too. that you had previously. I've never heard that one before. But I guarantee you, I'm gonna borrow that if I have your permission. What couple things I caught onto there, I wanted to touch base on was some of those limits that Old Faithful brings to you. Like AI and API, like some of those old systems you just can't integrate with some of these advanced techs, and some of them you can bolt on. But scalability is definitely hard, right? Because that's a direct cost. You have to constantly have your technology above the threshold of where your business is pushing you, right? And you can only grow as far as your business can only grow as far as your tech will allow it. At some point, your throughput, your scalability is going to cap out, and then you have to spend 20-30% add-on to give you the runway to build into. There's a couple other topics there that I have found that the cloud offering is going to give to you. Security, right? So one of the great things about having the cloud-based offering is you can bolt in things like SSO, MFA enforcement, the multi-factor authentication. You can do IP whitelisting. There's lots of great stuff you can do with security with a cloud-based system versus one that you have built in-house and on-prem. The resilience. God forbid, a meteor ever comes down, into Missoula, but, we don't want a data center hosted by Steven at his facility getting taken out. So with a cloud-based system, we have multi-regional dependencies. We have data centers in Virginia. We have data centers in Ohio. We have development environments in California. So we're spread out geographically, really, for any kind of a downtime, if it's a power outage or whatever, we have resilience baked in. And I think, lastly, one of the main things beyond scaling that you really get with an on-prem, when you go through this modernization effort that Steven's doing, one of the things is the speed, right? And I'm not talking about speed of the application itself, where the user interface is faster. I mean speed for delivering features, right? So in your on-prem days, as new features are wanted, you probably have to either develop them, or maybe you have a vendor that you get your source code from. You have to get an upgrade, then reapply it with your engineers. You have to maintain it, test it, QA it, all internally before we're talking about people's, claims, right? This is real money and real human lives. So you really have to do a lot of testing. So with the cloud product, that's all wrapped up. So that speed of features gets delivered a lot faster, right? So I think that's going to give you that business flexibility with the in the cloud versus on-prem, right? I think
very, very good points, Matt. Because this is the table stakes I was referring to, right? This is all taken for granted. I mean, we need to have this because there's an expectation that our systems are not going to break, and they're not going to be breached, and so these are the table stakes that clients, employers expect from their TPA. So as a TPA, we need reliable partners like VBA to be able to deliver that.
Right. And what is the table stakes of like the data breach that you mentioned, like the risk associated with that is enormous, right? So does having a cloud provider, does that give some kind of like a little bit more of a warm fuzzy blanket to have a little bit of risk mitigation? Does that help in that area some?
I mean, is it
a different kind of a pucker factor?
Well, it's just part of the bigger strategy.
Yeah.
There's we have a lot of effort put into security now. It's always been important because we're carrying PHI, so this is important personal information. There's financial information that is included, but the strategy around security is critical, and moving off of our on-prem system to VBA system was part of a larger strategy around building up that resilience.
Right. No, that's fair. Yeah. I think that going into the cloud, I think it's a lot like consumer technology in some ways, where once you have the cloud-based system like VBA, then it's kind of like Gmail, right? Like you don't really ever care what version I don't have no idea what version of Gmail I use, but I know it's the latest and greatest. I know it has all the bells and whistles and security. You know, I don't get as much spam, so they did something to upgrade that. So I think, you know, VBA and Common offering is a lot like that. That speed and the flexibility we were talking about, it kind of gets delivered to you rather than you going out and getting it and sourcing it and building it yourself. So that really helps expand your operations.
Right. And maintaining it. I mean, you know, with our system, our legacy system, I mean, we have to, spend quite a bit just to keep the lights on and the doors open, and maintain these systems in-house.
So if I could interject here, folks, because we're about to get into a piece of this puzzle, which is ever changing, ever expanding. But if I can broaden to this allegory of the airport, obviously you need airplanes to make that airport work. And as we've determined, it's best when those airplanes move through the cloud and aren't stuck on the ground. But now we're going to talk about how to maybe connect airport to airport and bring in external data sources and to use partners to make this holistic process even better and more efficient, not only for you, but for the people who need and receive the care that you administer. We get to talk about one of these acronyms now. Let's expand into the world of APIs specifically, because they offer the ability not only to extend what you can offer and what you can do, but can also help you to automate a bit of that process at the same time as the world expands. Now, this is where my knowledge starts to exit a little. Thank God I got you guys both here. But if we could pivot into that corner of the world, how do you see that potential benefiting both of what you do?
That's a good question. Since we're talking about something like, kind of super techie here, let me give a 10,000 foot kind of an analogy, not as good as the airplane analogy. And then now you've added airplanes flying through the cloud.
It's our heads, give us the 50,000 foot view then.
By the end of this, we're going to have a really good just analogy of how TPA tech works. I like where we're going. So we're landed, we're hungry, we're in a restaurant now, okay? Here's my analogy on APIs. Let me explain it to you. So you walk into a restaurant and you want a hamburger and a soda, right? You're not going to just walk into the kitchen and start cooking a hamburger and making your soda and go sit down, right? This wouldn't be unheard of. There'd be some upset people, in the restaurant. What you're going to do is you're going to sit down and you're going to pick up your menu, either on your phone or pretend this is a menu, and you're going to select something from your menu and you're going to order it from the waiter. The waiter is going to take your order, go to the kitchen, request some food, and then take the food and bring it back to your table. You zoom out far enough, and that's exactly how APIs work. Matt is sitting at his desk. I make an API call, a request for food. I've selected it from my menu. The airplane, in this case, goes to the kitchen. Steven's back there cooking a delicious hamburger. Waiter gets it, brings it on back, and delivers it to Matt. So now we just saw the request go to the back, get something, and come back to the request door. It could be data, right? I could have been Matt asking for member information, and Steven's the database, and he returns it back to Matt. It's just a way of requesting information. So with that, APIs really are becoming the connective tissue of, I think, the whole TPA ecosystem. As Steven was saying earlier, lots of vendors. They're in the business of moving data in and moving data out efficiently and fast. Every major integration, whether it is repricing with Zealous or compliance stuff with Talon or an explanation of benefits delivery through Zealous Redcard or Visium, APIs eliminate the need for manually requesting something from one of these external vendors. It's a way to request that information directly and get it back automatically, right? So then people like Steven and within his organization, they can do things like develop scripts that can automate claim submissions, because really, what is it? It's just making a request to the kitchen to get back some information, or you're delivering something to somebody. That's all it is when you boil it down. And then documentation for APIs would let people like Steven's engineers really kind of see what is on the menu, if you will. That is their menu, or API documentation, so they can order up and develop whatever they want within his org.
the other thing, Matt, I think that's really important is that you mentioned is having real time or near real time transfer of information,
Sure.
because that's where we've gone to, and that's where we're going even further. The need to modernize our transfer of data inbound and outbound has become critical here, or is becoming critical to our effective operations.
Absolutely. Like data that's a week old, a month old, that's extremely old data, right? Sometimes
Right.
data that is hours old is too old. So I'm glad you brought that up. What APIs allow, organizations like Allegiance to do is to connect with dozens of vendors in real time. So when a claim submission comes in or an eligibility check comes in, we're not looking at data that was an hour old or a day old. We're looking at data right now, right? And I think at VBA, we probably do something around 3 to 4 million API calls, a day. By the time this video comes out, it'll probably be more than that. Last year we did like 800 million API calls, I think, Stephen. So like there's a lot of moving data when it comes to the TPA space. And again, like APIs are just a connectivity tissue behind it. I think if you're not in the API space right now as an organization, I think it's something you should be looking into if you're in the business of or have the need for more of a real-time data exchange to and from vendors, or even internally. If you have two systems locally within your premises and you need to connect them, they both need VBA data, you can use the same APIs for that type of a setup. But really the interoperability, that really is like your bloodline, your connectivity, your connective tissue, if you will.
And it's a lot of hamburgers. All right,
That's
going
a
back
lot of
and forth.
hamburgers. That's a lot of hamburgers. Yeah.
Let's get back to the real story here, guys. Okay.
Let's get back to the real story. Yeah.
Right. So when we think about looking into what's possible, of course, there's plenty already on the menu that something like an API can help you to do today. But we are staring down a new era of computing in the way that people interact with software and how software interacts with daily life. I'm sure you both have been asked endlessly this year, what are we going to do about AI? How are you using AI? AI this, AI that. Is that going to make life better? Is that going to make life worse? How's it going to make my healthcare journey better? And of course, we're all about making the healthcare experience better for everybody. So if I could peer into the crystal ball with you a little bit, since you're both dealing with this on the ground, we'll stick on the ground for this one. Where are you seeing AI start to trickle in today, both from a technology side and from a business side? How is that coming together and thoughtfully weaving in to the journey that creates that better experience?
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. You want to go first, Stephen, or me?
No, go for it, man.
Okay. No, man.
So
This is
from the tech and from the VBA side, and then I'll talk
sure.
a little
Okay,
bit about
perfect.
from the TPA
No,
side.
perfect, man. This is such a big area, right? Like so big, and like in fact, Stephen, like we were talking about this recently at another organization meetup, and with any new technology, at first it's just really sexy and everybody wants to use it. We don't really know how we want to use it, but we just know, man, we need to use this somehow, right? And it's not a great way to approach a new technology. But what we've done at VBA is this was probably 2 years ago. We partnered with AWS. We brought in some of our clients. This was JP Farley, another TPA client of ours. And we didn't take hey, we have the AI hammer, run around looking for a nail. We brought in a client. We got AWS to come in and work with us and partner with us on this. And we really looked for a problem that was in the TPA space. So we worked backwards from this problem. And what we ended up doing is we developed an internal co-pilot or an assistant. We call it VB Assist. And what this is an AI agent that's built into our platform, and it knows everything about VBA. So it's like what it's doing was an early, easy lift in order to help our clients, people like Stephen and the people in his organization, to help them interact with our software and go from, I've been a user for 1 day or 2 days or a month or 6 months, to I have 20 years of VBA knowledge at my fingertips. How do I do X or Y to a claim? How do I build a plan that has these types of features? And the prompt comes back and tells you exactly how to do it. So it's really like a shortcut on onboarding employees and helping employees be more effective. So I think from VBA, one of the first things we did with AI was A, let's find the problem, and then we found it, and then B, let's see how to effectively get it in front of the users who are experiencing that problems first. Now, since then, that kind of laid the groundwork for an infrastructure for AI at VBA. And since then, we've expanded into other areas and we've approached the problem similarly, where we engage with the clients to find out problems. So we have currently on our plate at VBA in the AI space, we have something called Project Oscar. The name of a dog of our CEO, Michael Clayton. So Project Oscar is an AI tool that's going to help EDI, right? Think of it as like an EDI assistant where Stevens People has a new RX claim from a PBM. We haven't gone through the EDI side of VBA yet. We want to get this loaded up, like right now. We always want them in quick because we're in the business of data in, data out, right? So we want it kind of now. So what this does is it gives the user an interface to just, let's load a claim file and let AI figure out the mapping and then build all the scripts to convert the data to VBA standards. But then we're going to let a human come around and put eyeballs on it and says, yes, this looks good before it gets deployed, right? So we have an EDI assistant. We have the VB Assist baked into the software. Then we have something called Project Stormbreaker, which is using the same framework, but Project Stormbreaker is going to take Steven's SPD documents and how it's basically the document that tells his people, this is how we want to build the plan exactly. It's our reference document. Our source of truth for a plan is it'll take those and then automatically build a plan out in VBA format or in any other format to go into the system of record that can bounce claims against for benefits, etc. So Project Stormbreaker is going to be an AI agentic plan builder. Then we have a couple more kind of in the back burner I'll save for another day. But I think those are the three that we have right now. Plan building AI, EDI assistant, and then a VB assist built in. So really the operations layer and the day-to-day use is where we see AI having a big lift currently. And man, I've been talking for a long time on this and I could go for so much longer about it too. But I'll pause right here.
Yeah, let me give you a perspective, from the TPA side. First and foremost, I'm very excited about the next 5 to 10 years. AI is not going to replace humans. AI is going to allow our people, our teams, to do more. And it is part of our scalability initiative. There's no doubt about it. But what we see happening more and more is that with operations, whether it be our technical claims processing operations or a lot of our other back office functions, all of the things that we need to do in order to take care of members, to take care of a health plan, we're going to see AI touch these areas in order for our people to become more efficient and to reduce errors across the board. And here's the exciting part. What that's going to allow is for us to do more of the human part of managing a health plan, which is touching members and touching clients, taking care of people. At the end of the day, broken down into its basic unit, healthcare is about a person taking care of another person. We would have the opportunity, if a lot of the back office functions are made more efficient, to spend more time with members, taking care of members, guiding them, helping them through this incredibly complex world that is healthcare, and it's not getting easier. Treatments are getting more complicated and multifaceted, and the more that we can help members get through their journey, with their healthcare issue, the better.
Right. Yeah. Like even things like having, and I don't know what this is yet. It hasn't been designed or anything, but like having an AI system that can detect different types of claims that have been coming through on Matt over the years, for example, and pick up on I'm sure you know the name for it, but you have specific symptoms or procedures or diagnostic codes that may have happened over time, might be an indicator of early onset diabetes or so like there's ways that AI and systems that can sift through just so much more data than a human ever could that can really start to surface insights, faster, and that's really what, like, we don't want to see a list of the problems that we have experienced over the past 2 years within our organization. We want to see potential problems over the next 12 months, right, that we can get ahead of. And really, I think AI and APIs, what was the other acronym so I can use all three of them, Adam?
Oh, there's probably 10 that we could use here, but pick one.
Even
they're
with
all important.
AI and APIs, I mean, it's the speed of the real-time data and then the ability to sift through just so much more than we ever could in the past is going to help us get to those insights faster. And I think for me, that's going to be the biggest power, which I think 100% supports Stephen's approach of putting better healthcare in front of the member and helping their experience become better. It's a no-brainer. This is where we're going with it. And I think this is what it's going to give us so much lift. And I think, gosh, 5 years from now, I can't imagine what the future is going to look like, right? But I know 12 months and 24 months from now, we're just going to continue on this trajectory, making it faster and better and smarter.
Yeah, the clinical realm is a whole other story for another day.
Yes.
But the integration of clinical information, into what we do in order to manage the health plan and to manage members, yes,
right.
That also is going to have a huge impact.
Dude, yeah, all around. Yeah, not just in our little, bounding box of the healthcare space, right? Yeah, like
right.
You're going to have AI in your organization that's not even a part of VBA, that the healthcare, obviously, there too, in the hospital, the clinical systems, for sure.
Well, to have both of your perspectives here, both from the clinician side and from the technology side, is critically important because, as you've said, the pace of innovation is fast and the pace of complexity in this world is pretty much neck and neck. And we need this sort of technology just to keep up. I mean, forget about getting ahead. And tech superpowers and looking ahead to the next 5 years and all that is great. And we can be hopeful about that. But to get a pulse on what is happening today and some of the new exciting tech that might come to us in the next 6 to 12 months, that's been great to get a pulse on here as well. So Matt, Stephen, thank you both for joining us on this very flighty conversation here on Care Beyond Code. I appreciate you both being with us.
For sure. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
And to you, the listener, the watcher, you who have been with us for the last 30 minutes and heard all of these acronyms, allow me to wrap up by talking very briefly about one more. Right there at the end, what Stephen was saying about the importance of just making sure that members and patients have the best experience possible, that is our mission at VBA. We have been deep in this world on the technological side, but just trying to make a secure, scalable solution to match the rising complexity of just providing good care. And this mission, Care Beyond Code, is not only to talk about some of the ways in which that manifests and talk about some of those fantastic member impact stories, but also to make sure that you're informed with episodes like today. And so we'll aim to thoughtfully weave both types of conversations as you continue to consume this particular strain of content. And on the TPA side, I know that there will be questions within both of these avenues as you move on. We can only hope that you continue to stay tuned in here. Care Beyond Code available on podcast platforms, on YouTube. We'll be posting about it on LinkedIn. Everywhere you get your good old thought leadership about the healthcare admin world, that's where we'll be. Until next time, I've been Adam Connor. Thank you for tuning in to Care Beyond Code, and we'll see you soon.